아래 당도 전주 리우니 바든만 주부부하다 부하디 가서 된 디슈 제슈 차워와다 디니마들랑도 난 주부부유 점료군주 숨 사답델이야 아니 구성도시 연된 준비톤에 안델이야 안직 저벌루마 있으면거네 주부부야다 되네 아니 줄루마 있으면거네 안 차차와서는 도시네 아니 지게 유차세 유점료 군주 숨다 안디마세 안에 산이 숨다 안에 산이 지는 고다 최대 dengi 구유된 안에 군자라서 숨게된 산이 숨취 버디디게 안 투기된 안 최대라서 발라 안 디서 차세인 차세야다 네 지랑게 라마다 캠보다 안데네게 어디서 차상이야 안에 지게 산이기 제소장의 랍도 중앙되게 랍중당 안디멘비게다 상이기 안능 증가가 냠네 제행기 데니기 안직 나베 냠네 두스낭 차상이야 두시 차세기 인생아 그생 두신데 차세과도 주사로다.
Good evening. So we're continuing to look at the second chapter of Shantideva's Bodhisattva's way of life. We've looked at the many verses on offerings, and the offerings were made to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, in particular made to the three jewels, as were last week when we looked at the verses of prostration. These too were offered with our body, speech and mind to the three jewels, and not only to the three jewels, but also to the stupas, to abbots, preceptors, and practitioners of secret mantra. So to all of them, prostrations were offered with body, speech, and mind. Tonight we'll continue from the 26th verse, which is that on refuge.
초남 군유 주바이 안에 온데 초남들 접수 치시 대바도 점도셔야지 도시.
The 26th verse. Until the essence of enlightenment is attained, I go for refuge to all the Buddhas. Likewise, I take refuge in the Dharma and in the assembly of bodhisattvas.
먼저 장수님이 치기 바를 세대당은 저기 담점로치 인세다 담점로 강실에 접수주 유대라 당봉은 저 권조섬 재산기 권조당 주권조 기준 권조섬 세대 안geb주기 접수기 저 유대라세 지난데네 접수주 유대레디 권조섬의 세로하다.
Firstly, the objects, or those to whom we turn to take refuge, are the three jewels: the Buddha jewel, the Dharma jewel, and the Sangha jewel.
네 접수줘야 되라. 나는 저기 당본 점조세리 제리야 점조기 접수줘 유디 유권조 섬체. 다 점조계기 유리를마다 이용을 해주고 점조계 유디 가르용을 해서는 유리 이용을 해서.
The objects, or those to whom we go for refuge, there are three, the three jewels, and there are two reasons for which we go for refuge.
지사다 당보 저기 점조계기 유디니데 가르라나 저기 코위기 나서다 코와다 코위 누가디게 삼다제 강아디게 삼당고레스 지사 강아들도 수수 니규엔다 간지 되니기 강아다 규엔디네 삼다이데 교연 될때 탈고도 선배게다 탈되게 삼바지 끼고 그래. 제사지 교연 될때 탈고도 선배 탈되게 삼바게 봐라. 아니 코위 교연이 통고고 제대 되네서 코위 교연이게 아니 도시네 삼당고 그래. 제다 당 삼당제 되네 코위 교연이게 약고자 라트에도 오다도 코와 딜데 마탄데 탑미도 선배게 삼실이고 제사 코와래 아니 지게 마탄에 지금도 코와래 마타네나 코비 두마데네 강아데네 용고서라 와선베기 나 코와레 파 직두치나 삼다제 코위 두마 삼다 코위 두마데르 규엔 삼다 데레 규엔 통네 근데 통하지 고고레 스견 통하지 데레 탈두게 삼바게 고고레제.
Of the two reasons for going for refuge, the first comes about through reflecting on the sufferings of samsara. So this first reason, it grows in strength as we come to see how throughout samsara, wherever we are born, we will suffer. We will continue, as we have throughout this life, experience unwanted situations, problems and suffering and difficulties, one after the other. So it's to the extent that one comes to recognize the pervasiveness of suffering and samsara that one develops a deep desire not to suffer anymore. That then is the first reason for going for refuge.
안다디 제침보라시 나주게 낭비게 최념을 제와라 다이 나주게 또바줄이 제와라디 때문에 제침부시 차고래 지산디네고 코위 누가당 코위 유인디 마토베나 코와리라 타도게 삼바지 기투고 말에 베능아주 나가라와 베능아주게 칼알 마서베네 베능아주게 지게 룸버시리나 유지되베네 룸버델리아 직배 녀라서 강아르고 베네 추공부 남시기 강아 네 추다 되게 차산나 강아 예되겐 되네 강아 요베네 안데 직 룸버델레다 안지 코육되게나 안 쪽바로 되네 다 되네 강아시 통나 아다 델레데 되투사마 델레지 빼 유션다진 로골마다 델레데 나 균이 되투사마레 삼벨람 균 통에도 델레데다 룸버션다지 로골도 삼베게 다르게 델레 타지 션다지 로하게 삼로 기기로 와 델레야 룸버델레 균 마통베나 안소소나지 균 마통하네 게디나 델레야 안 델레 타야게 탑시된 거 삼로 기기 말와 델레 타고 삼베 삼마게나 델레 타야게 탑시디 거었던 거 말아. 마다만 게디나 델레 지코 마시버도 디나 룸바텔 하이로 와고도 도스데 코나 되디고 와. 제가 데네 자데 베데네 삼타베네 제가 룸바텔에 데네기 꽤 마통베네 델레양 두고 지게 델레 셴지네 야가지 제게 되버리고 말아. 제가 디말레도 안즈비네 코와데 코위기 균디 통고 말아 저게 베는 안즈리아 점 지게 지게 안주게 사야동야다 되네게 토네 안직 디기 수불은 누기 바다 디강아 여바 하고는 딜 마사야기 디파야기 탑시 지고로 와다 가서 디 베는 주로신 쪼바 있는 수불 누가 디동교 말했은 바 지가야다 지고로 와디 균 통여도 균 마도는 동고로 와다 디가서 되네게 수불 나즈다야다 강아리고로 디네자다 아주로 가르요르스네 아주 코위 균디하고 통투고 말이지. 균 스스도 하고 그러데 코위 균이 마통하지 아주 코위기 대비 코위기 연된 최대리야. 배 야부지지 디 돈돈이야 될이야 차바께지. 게디는 될이야 안지 두시네 차바께 되고래. 디네 자다 코위 균이하고 통투고 말에. 마통도 코와들 타고도 선배기 삼로도 숙침을 두고 말이지. 디네 자다 아주 당보 코와리아 두시네 제바지 와서다 가지고 좀도 제공 나선 두 제바지 그 균디네 도와 디네 강아도와 디네 도와 선배도 그대 섬다베네 균장 통에도 어다 예레데 타고도 선배 삼로지 리고 월살다.
This first reason for going for refuge, that of being aware of the sufferings of samsara. This is an extremely important topic for us to reflect on repeatedly, to the extent that we vividly see the sufferings of samsara, a determination to engage in the Dharma will arise within us. To the extent that we do not yet recognize the sufferings of samsara, our determination to give rise, to generate the minds of the Dharma within, will be weak. So this can be likened to if one is living in a particular area and one comes to recognize that actually it's very difficult to survive here. We're in constant drought, we're struggling to feed ourselves, the water that we have is polluted and is making us ill, and there's nothing we can do about it. This place we are in is really dangerous to my health and the health of others. When we recognize that, we will leave, we'll make plans, we'll look at somewhere else to go and we'll go somewhere else. But if we lack that inquisitive nature and we just accept that this is how it is and we stay overwhelmed by suffering and not knowing that there is anything, not thinking about this, we will not think to leave such a place. Likewise, if one knows that perhaps one has an allergy to a particular food, one will be determined not to eat that. Or if you know that water is polluted, you'll be determined not to drink it. It's through this knowledge that one will be sure to not do something or to do something else. Knowledge is essential. And here, this knowledge is gained through hearing the teachings and then reflecting deeply, again and again, coming to see the unsatisfactory nature of samsara. And again, to the extent that one recognizes the suffering experiences of samsara, will give rise to a deep yearning to gain freedom, a determination to gain freedom. But to the extent that we do not recognize the faults of samsara, attachment for what we misperceive as delights and pleasures, attachment will continue to arise and deceive us. So here we need to recognize where on this scale we find ourselves, and we need to set this strong determination to investigate samsara, coming to recognize its suffering nature, and thereby give rise to the determination to gain freedom.
Nyama logic nyelea je Afghanistan eri mamadigi su dyoyan de kabla an chik ta delya de hemi je kaspe chikanga da gyuen da shu thoma da delya da dinis dyen kanga delya de matana ta minu sambe samlo식 yebaza 가시기 소소 부고랑 지나 대셔도 아주 기도를 하셔서 다 kok강아지 강아 타고도 sambe다 delya 되는데 싸우기는 야보면서 delya 타도가 삼로 숙치 뭐 휴게도 소소마태도 소소게 랑기 that 아마디게 부 소소게 부를 자와시고 주여서 당아 강아 채반에 마음바도 부들이야 강아 치는데 강아 박도메 버레샤 섬제 부디 켜서 기도를 하셔서 파 직직도아 아니 안가시직 남주로로지도 조디갑래 남주 쇼보간에 탐되기도 하대 거기서 다 텔레데 마타는데 지금은 세베게 삼라실이 여러봐 디네사 온디나신 삼로지간 저기 코르에 동아 코와들 봐 교회 통하지 다 텔레데 마타나 삼 탑민도 세베게 삼로지 고기서 와다 세상 디니기 교회 증원이랑 교회 후시 하고요도 텔레 타도게 삼로 숙심보지 리고 디네자다 제장 겸르기에게 유디 더 코와량 코와당 가선리 코 교회 통하지 균 파도 시네 당보 인당 저기 삼로다 제와 마시나 디 연대를 하시면 통도 마도 균 통민도 변행하나 저기 즉 미숙 전보다 자산이야 즉 투제 다 투게지나데 어디 미드 파워 연대를 해야지 연대로 통도 마도 균 통민도와 진짜 디나신 저기 즉 고유기 최대 양아도 연된 다시 통도 마도 균 통통거 말아 진짜 디네서다 김전 삼다 제바제 호 균인비 김전 간스 균 차이도 균인비 김전 가래 디제베 내가서 뇌견 가용 제부 가용 거라서 균세야디 마음바다 제부 누가 중견의 균 차이로 와 진짜 누스네 제바제제 삼다디 아주 코미를 균 다와서 삼다디 디상 디공부 디삼당고 디네게 통화도 제바 삼다 두 제바지 삼다디 뭐네라 균이 뭐 통용 거래 또 뭐네라 균이 뭐 통বে는다 델야 탈리가 섬마도 탈기 되긴 세베 섬도 균이가 매로다 뭐네라 균이 뭐 하고요도 델야 탈되게 섬바지 리거다 기투거와.
This first reason for going for refuge comes about, well, the stronger the reason for going for refuge depends on how clearly we see the sufferings of samsara. All too often, we see samsara as pretty much okay, as quite pleasurable, and therefore attachment so readily arises for the varying delights and pleasures of samsara. It's like if there's someone in our life who we believe is a friend, in fact is a protector, someone who helps us, but rarely they're actually taking advantage of us, they're deceiving us, but we have not yet recognized this. And a vivid illustration of people who had come to see the grave danger of where they were and had given rise to determination to leave was when primarily the American, but the coalition forces left Afghanistan 2 years ago. We saw the desperation in people then, and they recognized that they could not remain safe where they are. They had to leave, and they had to leave right now. And we saw the desperate measures of clinging to the departing aeroplane, or people at the gates trying to hand over their children. So this determination that comes about in dependence on recognizing the actual situation we are in is what we need to develop within ourselves. And to the extent that we develop that determination, which comes about through recognizing the sufferings of samsara, to that extent, we will go for refuge. So to bring this about, we need to investigate, think for ourselves, looking at our actual situation.
Andus chine dine ko dele ko adile jida matan tabminu sembe taduge sambalin da taduge sambalin de dine nibade kalosan ja de 타야게 tablamdi sulu 수하고 거랬다 sulu yore nibade dine sulu yore samtan dus chine 제베제 두 samtan 다디 tablam koale 주의게 다 델레야 동안 델레 타야게 tablam 땡케네 수요스 다 상기기 뜬거 상기 킨거레스 제 상기를 요래 세베게다 건조 숨의 뉴바드 술리로 건조 숨의 요래 세데 두스진의 제바진의 상기를 요바 건조 숨의 뉴바드 요바데 하고야 직제 니베드 차고를 뉴베드 지나다 델레 코베 동안 델레 타고도와 sembe 삼놓게 다 타야게 탑람디 뉴베드 술 요래 라면도 심주체도 다디 뉴베드 건조 숨의 요래 세지 바 자하고야 차고래.
That's how one cultivates the initial cause, the first cause for refuge. And it leads then to the determination, I have to gain liberation. I cannot stay bound in this state of grave danger. Then the first cause is cultivated, and we then turn ourselves and think, where can I find protection? Where can I find refuge? And then we generate the second cause, which is we turn towards the three jewels, knowing that the Buddha, a perfected being, is free of suffering in its entirety. And therefore, the Buddha, in his teachings and community, they can provide the protection that we now so desperately seek. So this is the second cause for refuge, which comes from the first, and it's with faith turning towards the three jewels.
Andusine denigi na konjusumle yore nibadi yobadi konjusumle yoba tago ache. Dadi hagoidu nadine anda tablam de denigi da sanjel ya and chigi mazu da japsu de yudila sanje konjo chogo je geli konjo sumyosa sanjele japsu de jamro chela japsu de jamro gendola japsu de jamro se sum pa yewa chesina sumyun gorba da yewa mache bena konjo sumna japsu de jamro se jina shewro 디나데데 여와라 치요노면나 상게라 접수티베 잠로스야다 쳬라 접수티베 잠로 게든라 접수티베 잠로스 잠로 숨리기로와
When one gives rise to this determination to gain freedom from this perilous situation we're in, we turn then with the second reason to the three jewels with confidence. They have the ability to guide us to gain protection from suffering. So these are the two reasons that lead us to taking sincere, genuine refuge. And we do so to three objects, the three jewels, the Buddha jewel, the Dharma jewel, and the Sangha jewel. Or if we express the three as one, we would just say the three jewels. So these are to whom we turn for refuge.
Deni zada sanjele japsu tibe dele gyobe niba de sanjele yoba tongje da sanjele japsu ganes truguresi da samlo ni sumba de jamro ngene de kar sanjele japsu tibe jamro sedi da sanjele de ni gyobe niba de khowale dunga de gyobe niba de tablam di sanjele tyen yoras sibe tyen yoba da hawo kem hawo che deni tyen bana sanje ge nganzul lamden di jigiri jig maresen den jigiri sedi isi chede da sanje ge deni ge 상계라 tukse yonde ane kembe yonde yobaza denigida anzulia dungalu tribige talomdi manowa machuba da sangi dengere sembege sangi dengere sebe ichebege da kelin damja set jorwada da sangi dengere sebege icheba da dengere sembege ichebe kelin dela da sangi la japsutube jamro se da de jinga zo 다보 코에 동아들라 타고 동아들라 타고도 스베 삼는다 디 타비기 델레 껴베 뉴베 술로 열사 상기 열에세 다 상기 류나 상기 안줄 링알야 지 로봇 껴베기 지기리 지금 말은 된된 지기리 세베다 람된데 상기기 탑람 등알려 땡그리 세비기 이체비기 켈린데라다 데니게 데라 산길라 접수티비 겸로세 그러다.
To the extent we've cultivated that first cause, when we're cultivating the second, here, again in dependence on our knowledge and our reflection, we turn to the three jewels, turning firstly to the Buddha jewel, with certainty that by relying on the Buddha, we can gain refuge or protection. Here we know that this is the case, that the Buddha can provide refuge or protection, in that the Buddha can give us faultless guidance. The Buddha is the teacher of refuge, and thereby can present faultless guidance that we can follow. And we have confidence in the faultless guidance of the Buddha due to his qualities of omniscient wisdom, as well as loving care. So because of his incredible qualities of wisdom and loving care, we know we can rely on him. He is a faultless refuge.
다 쳐라 접수주기 점로세디 다 쳐세디 아는 저기 고된다 남된이 세지로 고된다 남된이 다른 아주다 고된 남데세디 다 차바침비기 강사기 기다 고된 파브 태신 파비기 고된다 남된이 세세베나 당한 저기 접수줘야다 델레야 접수줘야디 제가 당한 저기 고위 동안 승의 동을 껴베 뉴바디 권조 최권조를 요래세디 다 요래서 하고제 다딩아 껴고래 껴고 말해서는 껴고래 해야지 이체다 최권조 해야지다 고된다 다디겹다 고된다 남된디 소수길에 깨바이나 소수길에 깨어도 만나서 코비 동안에 껴고래 셈비게 코비 동안에 껴고래 셈비게 다 이체바 이체비게 켈렘베데니게 이체반 켈렌데라다 최권조 겹수르베 겹로서 다 고된당이 상지기 탑론 송셰비 고된 상지기 탑론 됴됴바데 네 냠스 렘바이나 네 귤로 고된다 남된디 귤에 끼용 끼그레 스탠딩 끼그레 끼용도 아니 나 코비 동안에 껴고래서 껴바래서지 데니 이체밤 켈렌 남자들다 최권조라 겹수르베 겹로서 골다.
The Buddha jewel is the teacher of refuge, and we have complete trust in his incredible qualities and therefore his guidance. And this then leads us to the second jewel, the Dharma jewel. The Dharma jewel then are true cessations and true paths, which have arisen or been generated in the minds of Arya beings. And the Dharma jewel is the actual refuge. And why is the Dharma jewel the actual refuge? Because we recognize that by generating true paths and true cessations in our own continuum, this is how we gain protection. This is how we gain protection from the sufferings of samsara. So initially, when we turn towards the Dharma jewel, we recognize in the Dharma jewel that exists in the continuum of Arya beings. But this is what we are striving to generate in our own continuum, because it's the Dharma being generated in our own continuum that actually provides us with protection or refuge from suffering.
데니 계단에 고된다 남된 인규라 계획이 된다라 아니 규라 계획이 된다라 아니 상여 줌는디게 탑론 뜬샤바도 소수기 냠는 집이 갑라 소소리아 다 마신바 롭된 제가는 로제겐디 파베 가사게 된거 저게 제기리 셈베이다 네네 제기리 셈베 이체베게다 켈 이체방 켈렘베게달라 삼노델라 다 긴너나 접수주에 냠로시고레.
The Buddha is the founder teacher, the Buddha jewel is the founder teacher, and the Dharma is what we will be trying to develop within ourselves, and to do so, we follow the guidance, the example of the Sangha jewel, our companions. So these are, the Sangha jewel will be the Arya beings upon whom we rely, our companions in our spiritual journey.
다 코위에 가서 동아래 교통 델레 타고도 선배 삼로시게 델레 교배 뉴버드 술을 열었으나 겹녀 건조 숨들 요래세베 다 겹녀 뉴버시도다 상계라 남된땡이 뉴버제데 상계를 요래 상계 땡비기 송셰베 남된 냠는 제발할 때는 고된다 고된디 최건조 소수길에 끼어도 코위 동아래 타그레 타이 뉴버 요래 ane delya nyamnen jebala del ro chegi nibadi genu ko chol yore sebege samnata dene jen samnata ne da dene min lamdün je sanye ge tablamde tengere sebe yi chebe yi che Dene 최고 tembe 냠는 제발라 dene 아니 지 최고 주길래 끼어도 아니 콜 동안에 껴그래 셈베게 껴그래 셈비 이체바 아니 대 냠는 제발라 아니 로칭인데 기둥 거 저기 로치그래 셈비 이체 셈 딩기 이체베게 이체데 다 잠로와서 다 잠로서 돼.
So to present that then in a summarized format, one first, independence on reflecting on the sufferings of samsara, to whatever extent one has reflected, a wish to be freed of such sufferings will arise. The more deeply and repeatedly one has reflected on the sufferings of samsara, the stronger that determination to gain liberation will be. Therefore, the stronger one's refuge will be. So this is the initial cause. And leading on from this initial cause is the second, which is to turn towards the three jewels, recognizing that the Buddha jewel is the being that has most perfectly, most completely perfected themselves and thereby attained complete liberation from suffering. So the Buddha then, we know, is completely reliable. And reliable in particular in the sense of, through his guidance, his teachings, the Dharma teachings, this is what will lead us to gain liberation. By taking the Dharma jewel, the true paths and true cessations, and striving to cultivate them within our own continuum, just like the Buddha jewel and the Sangha jewels have, by striving to develop the Dharma jewel, the actual refuge in our own continuum, that is our actual protection, our actual refuge from the sufferings of samsara. And who has the capacity to accompany us, to guide us, to be our companions and role models? This is the Sangha jewel, the Arya practitioners. So in this way, we turn with sincerity and with confidence to the three jewels, knowing that this is how we will gain our freedom from suffering. And this is the mind of refuge, the mind where one sincerely turns to the three jewels for guidance to generate the Dharma within.
And in the Zadang and the Dusine, Jamdri Gudan, the Jamdro, Japsu Yu, then Jamdro, Sadi, Mazunga Swadi, Dushibarua, the Nezada, then the Sikila, Jiangchu Ningbu, Chi Bara Seduda, Jiangchu Blabna, and Zugu, Nyomo, Sabona, Jebe, Bangbi, Bangba Gotian, and Tarvadela, and the Jiangchu Lagore. Zada Jiangchu Blabna, Jiangchu Tiller, Sumyung Grua, Nyomo, Beninyandugi, Jachumbi, Tubiki, and Gotena Lamden, Nieche, Yadeche, and the Ranja, Jachumbi, Tubi, Yadeche, and Sanyi to be Yadese, Tesumbatella, Jiangchu Lagor, the Jiangchu said, Chesa Jiangchu Tella, Jiangchu Chung, Jing Chembo, the Sumyungore, Chesa, Dinizada, Jiangchu Blana, Kar Jiangchu Balana, Kovi, Yomo, Sabon and Jeba Bang. They bang biggie and the Toby and then Gebatella and Jiangchu so Jiangchu said. Then she Nilu Mosum the Tar Topic, Tar Chimbaruchi, the Tobadilla, Jiangchu said, then the Jiangchu said. That Jiangchu Ningbo la du, Dinane can also that Jiangchu Ningbo la du, Jiangchu Nane, Ningbo Zodi said that San Yoko Fatisore. Yomo Bacha the Jeba Bangbi, Bangba, Che Concho to Gotin, San Yede, Jiangchu Ningbo. Chi Bar said, Delia, Japsu Drugins or that Jiangchu Ningbo, San Yoko, Matogi Bardu, Japsu Drugins, said Chi Bar said. Jiangchu Ningbo, Chi Bar.
So if you look then at the objects of refuge, in other words, those to whom we turn for refuge, and then those three, and then the two causes. Then let's look at the first line, until the essence of enlightenment is attained. So there are actually three enlightenments. There's the small enlightenment, the middling enlightenment, and the great enlightenment. The small enlightenment is achieved by hearers, the middling enlightenment achieved by solitary realizers, and it's the Buddhas that achieve great enlightenment. So to achieve any of these enlightenments, one needs to abandon the afflictions together with their seeds. But the enlightenment that is meant here is the great enlightenment. This term, the essence or the heart of enlightenment, this will refer to the essence or the main, the primary enlightenment. So it refers to the great enlightenment, the enlightenment of Buddhahood. So whichever that's the one that's referred to here, but any of these three enlightenments comprise the same term, enlightenment or Zhangchup, which refers to the abandonment of the afflictions and their seeds, as well as the corresponding good qualities or excellent qualities. And that's in relation to whether it's a small, middling, or great enlightenment. But again, here it refers to the enlightenment of Buddhahood. So therefore, one goes for refuge until Buddhahood is attained.
然后你们气现的着现过过来，着现的，着气现的着用啊，这其他气呢，他的那个对了，看是着现过过来，其实他着是的，将军宁波边着是过来，苏州过来是着的，就三路的，就三的，但是三路的高要是，个是跨越给内来内就跟三路的被牛毛把怕进的个叫了吧，其实当然。 capsu joye de gedi ba do capsu jugure sene ngi sem di nyomo ma ba chata je ba panje sanje sala male bardu ane ngi ya sanje le ya capsu jugin se orda bene jugure sem be yiche ba khelen damja di ngi sem di nyomo ba chata je ba panje sanje sala male bardu ngi konjo somna jamro chi capsu jugin se orda
We see right at the start of our second line, I go for refuge. So this word go, this refers to our mind, which is going for refuge until our mind goes to enlightenment or achieves enlightenment. But this go refers to going for refuge until our mind has gone to enlightenment. And one's mind has gone to enlightenment, once one has abandoned completely the afflictions together with their seeds and imprints. So that then is the meaning of the word to go.
Dele ba male bardu sa chi ko ro da chi ji bar se de ya ro han su du ko se na nga su sem di ta sem di ro la du ta nga su sem di pa nyam le jo gom che de ya ro de ro da ro se di su ro da ya ro de pa ya an san ji ko pa nyo mo ba sha de che ba bang che tham je ngo sum do ba ta chi be di bardu 안능이 안에 접수적이 현세지 자신이 배치기 바라세 다데 조서 유디 산교고파데 제 자주인이 뭐 산교고파제 델레 조간의 수고스는 안 저기 셈기티 셈디 델리아 냠는지 또또보 공내 공도 냠는 기야기 공내 공도 폐제 산교고파 디바 말레 바도 세요다 안능이 접수적이 현소래 다술로 접수적으로 랍디 산제 남나 접수치 제단 산제라 접수 산제 남나 접수적이 현소래
Looking at the first line, so essence of enlightenment then refers to that of actual Buddhahood, the great enlightenment. And one goes to enlightenment, and what does go? We see in our second line, I go for refuge. It's our mind is going to enlightenment. And this process of going to enlightenment we should think of as a process of our mind sequentially developing as it progresses towards enlightenment. There's this process of continuous development, continuous progression as we progress in developing the good qualities associated with the paths. So this is what goes to enlightenment, our mind, and it goes in the sense of continuous improvement or progression towards the great enlightenment of Buddhahood. And to whom does one go to enlightenment? So we see now to whom does one go for refuge? We see in the second line, first it's mentioned that one goes for refuge until enlightenment to the Buddhas.
Ningbu bardo so samlo de sanyo ko fa sanje ko fa male bardo sa chwa da de capsu chi se de sanje le su le capsu du ko le capsu samlo de ngi de yiche chang ma che de bene 콜웨 동아들의 타야기 산지 고판들의 레게 탑람디 수땡기레신 산지기 땡기레 세비기 이체바 이체 capsu droadi capsu di draw sede chi sede samro di denigi yi chebe chol pa tangwa da yi ma chebe ne yi chebe chol tang go rugo marwa yi ma chebe chol rugo ro jina de dine za capsu chi sede capsu draw se ko draw sede rangi yi chebe de denigi gyogre sambe yi che de sangel pa samro de yi ben tesum gyne meba lo lingi tachedo sangel ya du chene jigin set Ruginses, Capsu Chise, Capsu Ruginset, that's Angela, Capsu TV, Gamdro de Sungor, that digi.
So in the Tibetan, this word go is in both the first and the second lines. So we just have it in the second line, but it applies to both lines. So one goes for enlightenment one goes for refuge until enlightenment is achieved. So that's the first reference for go. The second is until enlightenment is achieved, one will go for refuge to the Buddhas. Because one recognizes that the Buddhas are the embodiment of who we are striving to become. And we will therefore continue to go for refuge to them until we have gone to enlightenment. So this term go refers to going both to enlightenment and until then going for refuge to the Buddhas. And go we should take in the continuously going for refuge to the Buddhas until we have attained enlightenment.
And in Janji Yibi Chi Bar Sanjo Kopa Matu Bardo, and Capsu Tugis and Chedangs and Chela Capsu Tugis, that Capsu Yibi Chedangs and Chela Capsu Tugis said that Chela Capsu Tugis came to the issue.
And then furthermore, we have in our third line, likewise I take refuge in the Dharma.
Just not that Chedan Chela Capsu Tugis, and Sanjo Kopa Matu Bardo, Che Conjo ding in Gula Jeba in Koy Dumale target SB Yichebe, the Yichet, the Yichet and Kelly a Sanyo Kopa Matu Bardo, the Yinsi or what that Chela Capsu said.
Moreover, one goes for refuge until enlightenment to the Dharma jewel. So the Dharma jewel, the true paths and true cessations, one goes until one has developed that to the extent of the Dharma jewel of a Buddha. One continues to go for refuge to the Dharma jewel.
Janju Semba Yi Cholang, the Shin Capsu Chis, the Janju Semba Public, the Sangi Dan, and Che Sangi, Che Lam the Hotel Lamdes. That the name public doing Janju Semba Public, Janju Sembi Cholang, Janju Sembi, Ang La de Sangi Dan, Chola Capsu Maze, and Janju Semba Public doing talks at the public in Mangpurwa, the Solia, Capsu Chis, Capsu Tugins or that.
The Dharma jewel specifically refers to true cessations and true paths. And the Sangha jewel, the assembly of bodhisattvas, they have, this here refers to Arya bodhisattvas. So these are bodhisattvas who have true cessations and true paths. And they are our Sangha jewel.
And that in it, that in Kunjusum, and Japsu to be Jambrodi, Japsu to be you, Kunjusum, the name Japsu to be you, Koi, Yun, Dele, Tartuga, Samba, Dene, and Dele to be Nuba, San Kunjusumla, Yabadi, Hawagi, Kunja Japsu to be Guni to share. That Jamdro said, that the Nigi Tarba Koi Dumala, Tabia, Tablam de Sangigi, Dungi, Sembege, Yiche Bege. Nuba Yore Dunker SMB Yiche Pegi Yiche Kelly. They don't be Yamso Lempaletine, Nanga to Cotina Lamdin Gulaki, Koi Dungal, Target SMB Yicheba, Kelena Yicheba. Then Yamlin Jebala, Gideon Conjure, and the rock jigger SMB, and the Taju to Kelen Pegi, Yicheba and Kelen de, that Jamdo Conjure some Japsu to Jamdo, Sidena, Japsu to you, Japsu to you, Jap. Jamdro said, when it did it, says Jabron, Jamring Wars, on the Nadir Redwa.
The Sangha jewel, just like the Dharma jewel and the Buddha jewel, we commit to going for refuge to them until our enlightenment is achieved. So therefore, we've looked at the three objects of refuge, those to whom we turn to refuge, the Buddha jewel, the Dharma jewel, and the Sangha jewel. And the two causes, the first and the primary cause, is by reflecting well on the sufferings of samsara, giving rise to the determination to be liberated, to gain liberation from the sufferings of samsara. That's the first cause. We then turn with a deep trust in the three jewels. And that's the second, the trust or the faith that we have in the three jewels. That's the second cause for our refuge. And we turned with trust or faith in the Buddha jewel, knowing that the Buddha jewel is the perfect example of this state freed from any possibility of suffering, a state of perfect, lasting happiness. We turn to the Dharma jewel, knowing that the cultivation of that within us, true paths and true cessations, is what will actually provide protection from suffering. Hence, the Dharma jewel is the actual refuge. The Sangha jewel, we see as our guides and our companions, and in particular in our Mahayana context, we turn to the Arya Bodhisattvas as our guides, as our companions.
다 동아하고 동아연 유가는 정도 동아 유대하고 지그래서 저고래서 동아 셔바자 유대하고네 유대 빵고 빵고래서 군주 빵와자 세도 제사 동아도 하고 동아연 유녀모 받아 하고 되네 대빵고래서 뒤에 타고 그래서 뒤에 봐서 그래 뒤에 타고 그래서 그래 뒤에 타야 탑람 가서는 고 남내 공부래서 남내 공나 게디 타그래라는 최고 저도 고티는 줄이게 타그래서 제사다 덴바시 사이 좀 내 손야 돼. 제사 취 닝보 덴바시 손야 돼. 데려와 돼. 제사디 데.
When Buddha Shakyamuni first taught in our world, he taught the Four Noble Truths. And he taught that suffering needs to be known. And this we saw as part of the first cause. And the second part of the first cause of refuge is the second noble truth, the cause of suffering, the origin of suffering, which the Buddha taught needs to be abandoned. And how so? Well, this comes through the fourth noble truth, the true paths, and these the Buddha taught need to be cultivated. And these are true paths, that are part of the actual Dharma jewel. And when they are cultivated, one achieves true cessations, the third noble truth, and true cessations being the second part of the Dharma jewel. So this is how we see the first teaching of the Buddha, the Four Noble Truths, and how it ties in with the presentation on refuge.
코기 동아들에 타야 된다라 이게 규định 매봐서야 돼. 녀모 매봐서요. 그래서 이 녀모가 매봐서요. 탑람들라 나 가서 다 매봐 고면하다 돈이 고면하다. 근데 아니 지금 조디고 안딜이야 녀랭아 저게 바 충아 되게 섬들 류가 예수님 녀제도면 안지 두신 수rim수 과야다. 두신만 안지 고면이 냠는 제 조디 디소다 잠 이제 장주 샘사다. 동방이 두배 싫어 검세다. 녀모가 충이다 되는 거 공부로 녀모뭐 충을 따야게 된다 가려라네 코알마게도 누가 뭐냐에 된다로 와다 누가지 제가 저 딜미지 제가 가서 냠는 제에 산지고 와 특별치도 냠는 제라나다 탈비 특별치도 냠는 지기나다 간질로 누가래 타야게 된다는 냠는 지고로 누가요 규디 매봐서야게 된다는 안도신 지고로 와다 너는 보디 샤도로 와
For us, in terms of what it means to practice the Dharma, where we really need to put attention is to come to recognize suffering and its causes, recognizing that the causes of all our suffering experiences that we are aware of, that either ourselves or others have experienced or could potentially experience, that cause is our own afflictions. And therefore, to gain liberation from suffering, we need to gain liberation from those causes, from those afflictions. And the direct antidote is the wisdom realizing selflessness or the wisdom realizing emptiness. But to generate the direct antidote, it needs a foundation of a broad number of causes, primarily the foundation of ethics, such as the ethics of abandoning the 10 non-virtues. And on top of this, many other causes, such as love and compassion. But the very foundation for us, and our focus needs to be on coming to recognize the sufferings of samsara in both a broad and a detailed manner, as well as then the causes that lead to all suffering.
가서래 안지게 링가 당사다 직차상다 고유기 취차되어와 내 직차상은 닝봄에 봤다 그래서 그래 닝봄에 봐 닝봄민도 세 대술에 타고도 선배 삼로 장고 그래서 진짜 디 장고에서 요도 양딩아 줄이야 지게 바 삼로 야고신 마다 왜네 권어 노래하기 냥아 쳐보 준 거래 이 가리용으로서는 땅아 찍고와를 닝보민데 코와를 쩐다고 위해서 되니게 냠는 지기에서 랍 되네야 어디야 고야매 지기면서 민염도 저와 맛에 아니지게 미쳐 계시에 맛에 저와 맛다 제술 닝보여 맛이 지겨 맛은 딘노르 차고래 나주 류디 나주 계세디 콜비 내들 끼려래 제상 아주 류 초야당 류 약고 초야당 셈나 류디 약고 매 맞춤 봐있나 냠는지 두고 말해. 세상 아주 냠는 제발라 아주 샘플 흘려 찍자. 샘플 야고 찍다. 류디리야 강함에 되긴 튕긴다 강함에 가지고 고거래. 니 거야디 제가 디 아주 지디 코위기 튕긴디 아주야 디 베제마다나 아주 소투야요 말해. 세상 아주 코위기 미징아주 대비 징아주 코유다 밀리아 제와 제고야다래. 안 지금 고유게 되네 지게 사야동야다 가르hin데 튕긴주야 되게 누구고래 이나 대설야 착신 휴제요 말이지 원래 착바다 셴바제제 디마치베 착바다 셴바마제바 소수기 냠는 제발이야 튕긴이 치도 도시는 아주게 도시 배시 삼다제 도시는 배시 당고 거래 제자들이 자당 코이 닝보메 코와를 쩐다 위해서도 안직 아들 지금 어디야 고야메 디야 사기메 코와를 닝보요 말해야 돼서 지금 샤샤벤의 소설 류를 강아지 그러와 안다 코와 닝보요 말 니도 세죠 고요 말 분제세 고요 말 혼자 저 제고요 말씀 비게 파지까 샤벤의 소설 강아지 그러와 냠는지 두 말봐 제가 디수 노르 차고래 제가 두시네 아직 냠는 제발라 냠는 제다디 고 초강이 강산에 파삼다 심주하고 제제 소소 류다 셈다 강야 강한 마테바 흘려지는 냠는지 두 가지고 고래 제가 니네자 가시 니네 용거다 빈 당보다 배다 대닝보여 말 다시 지겨 말서 자사 민년 수지에 저와 맞아 소수게 직 디와티 직 사야동야다 디서에 제리메지 되어서여버디 어다지 권초를 채우고 제자는 강삼질이야 가고 매바세 강한 체제되네 강삼질 어다 최세의 판도면도 세야대양 가다야다 배 균주지야 체계 냥아 첨부 채고 제가 니네자 나머네 삽사치는 곧 초강산에 야고 띵부치는 냠는지 오래서 왔다는 게 첨부를 채고래
The focus then for us is to reflect on the suffering, is through reflecting on the sufferings of samsara to come to recognize that samsara itself has no essence worthy of striving for. So if we look at where we put a lot of our energy and take our pleasure, it will be in sense pleasures such as food, having nice clothing, our friendships and relationships with others, and various forms of entertainment. All of these are examples of samsaric phenomena and therefore have no essence. So this we need to recognize. But we need to recognize with wisdom, not with attachment to one view or another, but with wisdom. In that, we need to recognize that to the extent that we are attached to samsaric phenomena, such as clothing, food, friends, loved ones, entertainment, and so forth, to the extent that we are attached to them, believing that there is some essence there that will bring us happiness, we are in danger. Because by being attached to these things, this attachment is experienced as a desire of wanting more. And this then is accompanied by anger of when things do not go our way, when we do not get what we desire. So this is the danger of having an unbalanced approach, of being guided by our afflictions, because we believe that these samsaric phenomena have an essence that can bring us a happiness. But on the other hand, if we come to a mistaken conclusion in our reflection, and we abandon these samsaric phenomena, we may end up harming ourselves. We may turn away from eating sufficient nutritious food, or having somewhere sufficiently comfortable and safe to live, or having required good friendships and interactions with others, or having some entertainment to relax. We may abandon all of this, push this away, and now again we are going to another extreme, of being attached to another extreme. We need to use our wisdom in these meditations and take a balanced approach, and that balance we will find over time, and it may shift as well over time. Because the skill of the practitioner here is through meditation to come to know themselves well and to practice in accordance with one's capacity. So not to be guided by desire for worldly pleasures, or guided by desire or attachment to overt or over abandonment, overly renouncing, and thereby harming oneself. One needs to use one's wisdom and find a balanced approach that suits where you are now, without being deceived by one's own attachment to either of these two extremes. The skill that the meditator needs to employ here is not to, on either, be a bit too lazy or to push too hard, but rather to be skillful, to be balanced. And if one is too lazy, one will not progress. But if one pushes too hard, one will give up. So therefore, we need to look well in our practice, look well within ourselves, and be skillful and practice in a balanced way.
Koran chunala mena madhubana chule lost to no cause sotuya horyomarwa. In Ashing around to Korig near like yes, however, led on Yomo ongi Korea de like yes, however, Korig that the on Chue did take Page dancing to Solma to Shen to a maid, that then I to get into Benelli to zero chin says Chiki Chilo Chandachi, Pachick Chick Tevena. Sana Anzul Suku Trigina Nagina Pingina Hawaii Marba, Chisang Anzule Soedi Diruapen Chutzamana do it again, Semjen Yadikelia, Chigan, Jasu Churu, Chena, Trim the Shiru, Koron near Katsi Kevin, Digas Pejetaji, Sohormado, Shandachi Chinakun Pingmidua, Dinashing Anzu that the Ludi, Corvi Dumagil. Kowi nearly gets our in the Kowi doing the other or the men are so to a Kalekabore, the so war. Tang answer the Samno Cargoras and Maobana, the Nigulu Malayage, Yahachi, that in some Lutone Janderche, some Lutone Janderche, some Lutone, the Nigtone, near the Lepe, Chashin, Dum, Chashin Majevache, and Nimbo Yomar Sebe, Nimbo Meba, Tegila, and Bejitan watch our Then I had the modern by Tepjar, Mother Mena. The mother did the Yingba Pendo Minister got this Cosos de Mena, the mother Mena, the Beach Dangurash, and I be Diomarwa. That answer the culture wasn't the Beach Tangin Tangilia, Motor Yahuch, Dile Yaha Chimama, Yahaji, Yagi, Guding on the South or water, Gusawa, the Chuju, the Gu, the Beach Tangi, Chin, the Mopan, did it ngi gyuji sa che di ma yu yin sembe sam tangi tangi che nga zu gyudi ka so gyu sa go ro gyu sa ine ko ng beje tang go da di beje tang di wa kye shin so gyo tangi tangi beje tang go ro odi na shi nga zu lu di ko ri gi che de na di beje ta de ni ge pa long ju gi sam lo na la ya de ni ko wa la ni bo min du se be cha shin ma ge wa che de le de ta wu sembe ta ya ge sam lo di ta ya ge tablam de le ya ani nga zu ge sam lo na la ya ji di bon ge rup che de wa da nga zu ge 지게 개워주야다 디고 포야 다음에 봐도 베셔라 고미야라서 봐 지수 고미야지 공발에 때네 다 고미야딩 아주 타에게 탑람 맞서 유로시데 싸우고 그러다가 유사고 그래 맞도 유사비 갑리야 베지 미누스인데 유샤베네 되네 베지 다라게 말아 되네자 되네게 예 첨보라 쳐고 되네 자당한 저기 제장의 코이 견다 코이 줄에 이거요 말 차상도 쓰는 베지마다 받아 파직 샤샤바는 아주 초투에 매래 제산 디네 연사 곧 선면나래 차신 마셔봐 신이 보면 봐 되게야 세델이야 디 베시마다네 탑람 매바래 제산 베시 땅이 삼나나 차신 뭐바나 되니게 게 모두에게 딜에 야가지 게게 탑람 되어서 삼나나 죽고야 돼 아주 야가를 하지 마서 뒤로 와다
What I'm presenting here really is quite important, because the process of the Buddhist approach is one of coming to know oneself well, and thereby being able to rapidly spiritually develop. But we have to get to know ourselves well and be realistic. But with that is not being deceived either by attachment to laziness and pleasures, or attachment to an extreme, being overly renounced. So, for example, a fish is born into a life form that requires it to live in water. If a fish were to renounce water, it would die. So similarly, we are born into the desire realm within samsara. We have certain levels of need. So this we need to look at and recognize. And as we come to know ourselves better, we'll come to see ever more clearly what our actual level of need is. And as we develop spiritually, that level of need will also change. But we need to be skillful. Because similarly, if we were to see a fish and say, oh, you're in this very salty water, that's not nice at all, and you take it out of the sea and you place it into a nice clean river, that fish is going to die. It's born into an existence that means it needs to be in salt water. So this illustration is about us being skillful with our mind. So we need to have relations with others, friendships with others, and certain level of material comfort, and to take care of this body. The problem is not so much in the possessions or these material phenomena, but how we relate to them. This is about then our mind. This is where we need to look carefully and see where the way we are relating to things is mistaken, and perhaps we'd be better leaving those alone, or where we can stay engaging, but just be very mindful and engage skillfully. So just like the way we should put our body and our material resources to use is like if you've got a car and it's not very new and it's not a particularly good model, but it is good enough for your needs, and be happy with that. No need to be attracted to the shiny one you see in an advertisement or on the road. Moreover, make the most of what you've got. Put it to good use. And this is with our body and our possessions, this material world that we have. Have a clear look. If it's good enough, it's good enough. Put it to good use. There's no need to long for more. If one needs something to be replaced, then replace that. But look with clear eyes. This process is about coming to know ourselves, coming to know our mind, being honest with ourselves, seeing where we are and how best we can progress to where we want to be. So this is a responsibility for each of us individually. We hear the teachings, and we reflect on them, applying them to ourselves, taking a balanced and a skillful approach, going at our own realistic pace. The focus is on transforming our mind, developing our mind, and to utilize all the various resources we have around us in a skillful way to ensure that we change our mind and don't get stuck and keep on being drawn into samsaric desires and pleasures, but rather keep our focus on spiritual transformation. So this whole process of coming to know ourselves and thereby by being honest with ourselves, developing ourselves, this is our most important job.
당한테 접수 줘서 점조될이야 산지에게 접수 산지에게 탑람데 땡기리 세비 이체보면 켈린 담자 땡보텔라 산지라 접수 주베 점조라와 제가 데니기 이체가 김전 가래 켈린데 겹거려서 이셈 딩기 딱 켈린 제와데 가래랍나 디 맞아내 준 가려라랍나 디 맞아봐이나 어데 다다직 시투기 나면나 다다 숨기 나면나 도바사나 디초라 타지도 가서 내가 두고 말와 지금 말와 이시 맞아봐네 베네 냥아 두고 말와 진짜 베네 최고조세디 고고단 람데니 귤에 깨나 코르에 동안 타기 나면나 선배 도바사나 지지나 타게 마타나 뜻인데 곧 배주 숙침을 지고 지금 말와 진짜 이 제비게 켈렌 남자 땜부지요 오거래서 칼은 요급이 김선 가르스는 소소 켈린 담자 템보여나 소소디야 레가치야 dum바디 슈크첼리기리 예제래 안디 마세 칼린 담자 템보메나 샤나지기 오다디 지기오마디 노트레스 디 도마라람나 안디니 파 가스 디초ල් 드라게 냥아요와 디네자 제자 상게라 최나 게늘레 디니기 이체베게 이체 템불로 링기 이체바 로링기 이체베 켈렌 담자 템보텔라 잠로고 잠로세 디고 김전에 가서는 네 샹게 람 로버팅켄 어디네 레규려요 말 사이토요 말죠 디세디 어디 라면에 미션다지기 되니 람나 디 촐라야 드라기 소소 로규리에게 냥아요래 로규리에 냥아요바 직체 지네 소수게 다디 토베게 된다래야 배주 숙체부 용 말와 직 말와 디 마제게 냥아요 반삼 디네 인자다 배주 숙체부 제야 당 로마규리에게 생기 되니게 로베 람기 촐라 로마규리에게 지된다라 템보시 고고레 세kim센디로 와다.
So that we heard earlier the two causes for refuge. Firstly, giving rise to a strong desire to gain liberation from the sufferings of samsara, and then secondly, having stable trust in the three jewels. And when one has stable, and the trust arises in dependence on the wish to gain liberation from suffering, the deeper one's desire for liberation and the deeper the resulting trust, the more stable one's refuge will be. And having stable refuge is of great importance, because if one's refuge is stable, it will be experienced by one applying oneself with ease to cultivating the Dharma within. If one's trust in the three jewels as being the technique by which we gain freedom from suffering, if that is not stable, we'll continue to be drawn and drawn to this and distracted by that, thinking that this is pleasurable, that is something I need. And in this way, our mind will continuously remain scattered elsewhere. Whereas if we have reflected well on the sufferings of samsara, given rise to a wish for liberation, and thereby are relying on the three jewels, our trust in the three jewels will be deep and stable. Our refuge will be sincere. And this then enables us with ease to turn away from distractions, to focus on cultivating the Dharma within. And this will also protect us from being drawn to to presentations we may find exciting or drawn to by charismatic teachers, but drawn away from the actual path, the actual Dharma. So therefore, developing this deep and stable trust in the three jewels is of great importance.
안디네 자당 저기 겹유 겹된법어 상예 지부 샤거로와데 겹된법어 상예 세야지 지상 겹숨 샤거래 나당 지된 비게 하데서 아니 지게 주주되어 여바다 되는스 가르유베네 돼서 겹유리 샤거 말 겹수 저기 유마인서 지다당 지된나 나가시기 소소가 강한 세게 탑람이야 안에 도당 신리야 겹수 좋아 돌아야 겹수 줘야 당 안지 지딘비 하라 되니기 라 겹수 좋아 용거랬을 지고 말에 돼서 겹유 원내에 차고 말해서 베네 지딘비 하 주주되게 누바 지부学位呢데 안코론리아 안지 코론 코와 나래 내되어야 제상 코와야 남든 지역이 코의 동아 타달래 껴비 남든 지역이 누바디 코로요 참고 말해 니네 자 겹수 주비 유차고 말해 저래
So when one turns with sincerity, taking refuge in the Buddha jewel, one thereby also has the precept not to go to refuge to other teachers, to other worldly deities or gods, for the simple reason that such deities or gods are not freed from liberation. And if they are not freed from liberation, if they are not freed from samsara, they cannot guide you to freedom from samsara. So therefore, when one turns to the Buddha jewel as the founder teacher of refuge, one also implicitly does not go for refuge to any other worldly deities, gods, or teachers.
진짜 나버 산지 비기 겹들어 숨 쉬고래 인지미주 숨 고고래 숨 매나 지고 말해 그래서네 겹된 법어 산지 해봐체 겹된 법어 지부 여배네 겹된 법어 여나야 아니디 냠수 레네 지 가소래 겹 잔다지 기기면은 코알레 타투야 말해서 제산 소소 냠는 제발로 로제게면에 갈래하고 싶어요. 제산 겹된법 지부 지금 말해서 지마 겹된법 쉬어봐체. 자 겹된법 쉬어봐체 안 뜀비기 디제고래서 디제부 디용고래서 제부도 토야면아 지금 말해서 그 지금 요래서는 제부 직시에 안지 냠는 제발 제부 토야면은 달발 코외 동안에 저 토야면와 제산 토비하기 최다 고된다 남대세도 고고래서 제산 최고치 고고래지 다티 토발이야 냠는 제발이야 상기되게 지나가도 제토요 말디 메르와다 제상 안줄이야 로제겐지 냠는 제알이야 로제겐지 고래인지 미지 고래 디게는 건조래서 제상 디 숨바 창고고래 디 숨마 상바이나 안주 냠는 제네 코위 동안에 타도야래 갈래가 보지 숨바 창고고래지 다 숨내 마와지 고요 그래서 디나 고요 말해서 지게든 건조다 최건조 산유 건조 디레 신비 겹산다 고고를 해서 숨 마와지 고요 고요 말해서 그래서네 아주 겹수 줘야 돼 그래서 코위 동안에 타야게 된다래 제산 겹숨부 델레티네 코위 동안에 타 두고 와래 타 두고네 양지 잔다 지네 그거스가요 말와시 제산다 아주 낭비기 겹수 줘야 유되라 다 겹된긴지 이제 마 된 남도 되는 제고래서 냠는지 땡게 냠는 뭐 땡게지 제제 다 냠는 데 안도 이제 냠는 수주에서 안도 제고로다 안도 제발라 안 로제겐지 제기는 거죠 로제게 딱 땡게지 로제게 되네 안에 냠는지네 제부 토야면은 안에 디디가 말 세상 제부 토비야디 최다 최권조 고든 남들 길에게요 고래에서 디용 고래해지래
Furthermore, when one goes for refuge, one needs to go to refuge to all three jewels. It is not appropriate to only go to refuge to one or two of them. And it's not appropriate because it will not lead to the desired result. And the desired result is the answer to the causes of refuge, liberation from suffering. If one turns solely to the Buddha jewel, one will not attain liberation. One will not become a Buddha oneself. Why? Because one has to cultivate the actual refuge within. One has to cultivate the Dharma jewel within. Because it's the Dharma jewel that is the actual refuge, our actual protection from suffering. And if one only relies on the Dharma, Well, this would be a little strange because the Dharma was taught by the Buddha. So how can one rely on the Dharma, striving to cultivate the Dharma jewel within, but not having respect for the Buddha jewel? And similarly, if one tries to do it on one's own, having deep faith in the Buddha and striving to develop the Dharma jewel within, but not relying on our companions, the Sangha jewel, again, our endeavors will not bear fruit. All three jewels need to be taken. All three need to be seen as our refuge, our protection. So these three are definite in number. If we rely on less, we will not spiritually develop. And if we think perhaps there's a fourth jewel, this too is a mistake. The number 3 is definite because there is no need for anything beyond the 3 jewels. Because by relying on the founder teacher, our companions, and striving to develop the Dharma jewel within us, just like the Sangha jewel have within them and the Buddhas have within them, that is sufficient for us to gain liberation. So therefore, the 3 jewels are definite in enumeration.
Sangye Koncho nga Tangpo nga Duxin Samta de Korwe Dunga da Rangda Shen Sui Ne da Korwe Dunga de la Kanga Dua Simpeki da Korwe Dunga de la Tao do Rang Jibu Maya Shen Semja Tamje Korwe Dunga de la Tao Du Sempi Tarane Matan de Tigminu Sempi Kanga de Tao do Samba Samta Dine Samta da Dele Gyobe Nuba de Sangye Koncho Sumo Gyabne Koncho Sumbo de la Yore Sempeki Samta Dine Zada Gyabne Koncho Sumo Gyobri Sempeki Gyokure Sambeke do Duxina Yichebe Yiche the Yi Kalena Yicheba Duxes, Samita Duxina, Gyokure Sambeke Samno Duxina Science, Jamdruche. Tisnadadi, Gyokure Sambe Yiche Save Gel Data, Jamdruge Labjaser, Gyoveke, Rangida, Yamlin Sanjil. Ma nga zu nyamlen je dunga le kyebe tablam sanje gi ma song sha ba di dibo pong ke wa drup se di cha song de ba che san di so su ge hu da yim ne ji yin sen be da de ni ge ko ye dunga le ta go ta go gu se be gyen da ko be ta de ge san ba ji ge de ne ko ye dunga le ta ye ge kyebe ge ni su yu ni ba su yu le jem ne kon cho sum yo re che san jem ne kon sum kyo gre san be ge de ne ge yi ji ke len de je du che di 대인 장에 고용동을 타야게 된다라 근데 디봉 기록지기 선배다 개월주기 선배 소속이 다 네가 소속이다 가든 베네가르 냠는 지기에 반하다 공작이 나라 장주섬 공부 동반이 공부이네 신의 공부에 나래 디멘비에다 소속이 지게 직 자야에 나래 가르 이제 개와 최보부의 차세와 가르 지기에 두스는 제베는 당하는 지금 다 Jamdro Samtaji, Geju to be Rugorva, Chesandi, Jehwadi, Duschagurva, Chesangan Yamne, Jamdre Yamne, Sadi, Dirwada, Tambo, Koyu Dunga Samta, Dile Tarduga Sambad, the other Ranchibo Samata, Ranchibo Shen, Semja, Tamje Koyu Dunga, Dele Tagudu, Samda, Dile Jobadin. Gemne Conjusum, Nuba Yore, Sembe Samata, the Nigin, that Nuba Yoba, the Gemne Conjusum, Yoguri, Sembe Ishe, Tarjidu, Ishe, Gom, the Nico Sosarangi, Kamakashi Kazagum, the Nizada, Yogures and Dikyo Dandalada, Sanji Sunshepe, Tablam did that Dibon Kirupchiki, Sempe Sosugeda, Medici, Dinga Taria Dandala, the Nigi, Semja Tamje Koyu Dunga de la Taria Dandale, in Sembe Samdaja Susu, engage your career to Baine, Duschebana, that Jamdro, Mundo Dangje, Kuno Jamdre Kunya Langje, and then Anzuke, engage you to Ba, said Chagurwa, DJ Vena Anzukita, that Gavati, Dita, the other day, Jamdro said the education, Sanjoko Matobi Bardo said that, Chesan Sanjoko Mato, but the Yogurt, Japsutugi, Sembe Sam Tadi, Zada, in Sanjoko to be Chirdoda, the Niki get you to be a simple tuba, sometimes tuba in, then Jamdroda, and the Jiggy. Semja Sanjoko to be chilled sometimes that Janju Sem Kunela Bada, Jamdu Kunela, Kishu Sawa Chagura, the Niki Juduedida, gave out in the Tukuri, said Sungur, the Netubaina, the Gavat of Chembo Chagura, said Yamazugida, the Ringi Dangan to Jamduko share the Dondala, Nimbo some diet and Gonzo Lalan diet, that didn't see some diet, Jayadruada.
The essence then of what we've looked at tonight is that firstly, we need to reflect very deeply on the sufferings of samsara. So here we should look at our own lived experience of what we have ourselves experienced. And in addition to this, we should take what we observe in the world, what others are experiencing, and then also take into account what we study in the texts and so forth. And looking in detail, coming to see how samsara has no essence. There is nothing worth striving for if it remains bound in samsara, because it will not lead to the happiness we desire. We need to really come to recognize the suffering state of samsara and give rise thereby to the determination for liberation from samsara. This is both the foundation for our refuge practice, but it's the foundation for engaging in the Dharma itself. Hence, it's an imperative meditation to engage in repeatedly. But in our context here, we first reflect on the sufferings of samsara, and thereby we use this as an impetus to turn towards the three jewels with deep confidence that they each individually have varying qualities that will enable us to develop the Dharma jewel, our actual refuge, our actual protection within, and thereby gain freedom from suffering ourselves. The actual liberation we long for comes with the generation, the development of the Dharma jewel within our own continuum. And to do this, we turn to all three jewels. And the three jewels are definite in number. We turn to the Buddha jewel as the founder teacher of the entire tradition, particularly in this context, the teacher of refuge. And we recognize that in his presentation of his teachings of the Dharma, he taught suffering and its causes, and he taught that these can be brought to an end, and he taught the method to do so. So this then is the foundation for whatever other practice we will then engage in afterwards, this cultivation of the mind of refuge, which comes through reflecting on the sufferings of samsara, giving rise to determination for freedom, and having confidence that by relying on the three jewels, taking the teachings we are receiving, and through cultivating them in the way we are being guided to, by cultivating them in this way repeatedly over a sustained period, we ourselves too will attain freedom. So this mind of refuge that's arising, this confidence in the three jewels, is the foundation that we generate before every practice. Whether we're going to be meditating primarily on emptiness, or on love, or on compassion, or cultivation of bodhicitta, or engaging in other practices such as prostrations or mantra recitation, we always start with this foundational practice of refuge. And the way we should engage with this is not just as a mere recitation of a formula, but a genuine determination to gain freedom. And to do so, we'll rely on the three jewels, rely on their guidance, cultivate the qualities of the Dharma within. In this way, we accumulate extensive merit, and we commit ourselves, as we see here in the first line, to do so until we achieve the enlightened state of a Buddha. And we strive thereby to become Buddhas through this accumulation of virtue, for the sake of each and every mother sentient being. So thank you. We can conclude there for tonight, but if you have questions, then we can take questions. So start here with Ruby first. So Ruby, yeah?
Geshe talked earlier about there is no essence to samsara. So would there be a collective essence to Dharma or enlightenment?
So Geshe said earlier that samsara has no essence, but is there perhaps an essence to Dharma or enlightenment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
자주 규례계나 코와래 탈거로 봐. 동안 연구 말아. 제사다 닝보디 이거리.
So yes, those virtuous qualities that come with the Dharma and enlightenment itself, those one could say have an essence. But that what is bound in samsara does not. Okay? Okay. The gentleman at the back.
How important is mindfulness in meditation?
How important is mindfulness in meditation? It is crucial. It is crucial, and mindfulness it comes with a companion, that of vigilant introspection. These two together are essential in meditation. Okay. Tepal?
I have a question from last week with the, it's just curious with the visualization, when you have the Buddhas and of the 3 times and the Dharma of the 3 times, and you're doing the prostrations, you know, because normally you have the merit field in front and then you have the person, you know, yourself, and you're directing your prostration. But when you are really dedicated for the 3-time Buddhas and the 3-time Dharma and, you know, the 3-time Sangha, it becomes like a non-dual type of knowledge direct to your prostration. So I'm just wondering how Geshe-la sort of visualizes when he's talking about when you're considering those 3-time body objects.
I'll try and see what it comes back.
It's to do with just the locality.
제tum나 자사도 제로하다. 제마도 nenjim지 제화서 말고 그냥 저기 상계단 다 장수선바다 차 뒤숨 삼마다네 다 덤바상이 좀 된대다. 안지게 자사도 아지게 잠야라서 바다네 지 제수 자사 유입세비 뭐바시 사담 되거로.
So there, do in accordance what is comfortable, what works for you. So if the way that it was described with the 3 times and so forth didn't work so well, then do it in a way that does work for you.
Bena 저게 미베체로 뒤숨기 상계디 예 삼다지와 뒤숨기 상계디 뒤당부에 상계데 니베 마음바 상계지 저게 바제르네 사탐나데 제 데스칼레가 주네 제 뒤숨기 상계디 된데 예 삼비 마바체바이나 네데 제 지게 책으로와 니지다는 저게 되니게 때문에 세테비캅라 다 소신 차사사 다야 응구로와 디멤베기다 되니게 저게 소스라랑게다 저 gemne 군두이 상계다 상계 차상계다 디 용수 뒤바 라마다 상이 라마 이름 상계 차상디 라메이 오디 인스베다 상이 지도 뒤제 된바 상계 지랑오 사답델야 미바 제주제네 저게 근데 상계 탐지 용어 호라 인스베게 삼담 베바제 지응구로 와다 세상 소소게다 삼로기 도직 저게 데 장도를 바베게다 두신 삼당도 버지 제로와.
So again, just to emphasize, approach this aspect of the practice in a way that works for you, that you are comfortable with. So for example, it's sufficient to merely know that the Buddhas of the 3 times exist. That is sufficient. Yeah. Moreover, a way perhaps to make that this will be clearer is you'll be familiar with the practice of seeing your Lama and Yidam and the Buddha as being indivisible in nature, and also thereby will know that they they are indivisible in nature from all the Buddhas. So this we know as well. And then this, in a way, if we are comfortable with that, then we can easily relate to our Lama as being indivisible in nature from the Yidam and the Buddha Shakyamuni, and in fact all Buddhas, if we are comfortable with that. So move in a way that you're comfortable with.